Quotations from myself, segment 57, quotation number 713. Not too many people could be classified as absolutely selfish egotists, who, no matter how much good they receive from others, never feel either inclined or obliged to reciprocate in a likewise fashion. On the other hand, there is also very few that could be called limitlessly selfless altruists, who, regardless of how often and how much they are harmed, have neither wish nor will to retaliate. Consequently, the majority fall somewhere in between these two extremes. That is, they would, if possible, repay a good with a good, and evil with a evil. 714. A life of a true philosopher must, of necessity, be uninvolved and uneventful. For not only the preoccupation with day-by-day living leaves no room or time for contemplation, but also it is hard or even impossible to maintain the wanted philosophical detachment and objectivity when one is an active participant in the worldly affairs and exposed to all its vagaries and vicissitudes. On the other hand, since philosophizing is a mental process which required, in order to be well grounded and have any validity, as its primary raw material, the actual human experience, the one who personally lacks it due to withdrawal from active life, has no choice but to depend on that of the others. Such a second-hand experience would be inevitably altered in this vicarious act of appropriation, and therefore cannot be fully relied upon. And even if a philosopher spent the first half of his life as a busy man of the world, in the very midst of the teeming masses of humanity, and the second one as a contemplative recluse using his own former life as a material for philosophical speculation, since memory gets notoriously distorted with time, they again cannot be trusted to make valid conclusions, which are the end product of true philosophy. Hence we are faced with a dilemma which has only one unavoidable answer. There is no such thing as a true philosopher, nor ever was or will be. (715) Finding oneself in the company of a teacher, regardless who else is present, one has but the two choices: either to rejoice at the opportunity or to resign to the inevitability of being enlightened. For short of leaving the place immediately, and with a good excuse at that, one is going to be made feel one way or another, being in a classroom and getting instructed whether one has asked for it or not. (716) The question, what do women, or men for that matter, want, is the wrong one to start with, since as soon as life begins to be perceived as governed by wants, instead of needs, confusion and uncertainty ensue. For while the needs of a human being of whatever gender are more or less clearly and narrowly determined by one present social biological condition, the wants constitute the complex product the intricate mixture of individual collective imagination, and as such refuse to explicitly and unequivocally acknowledge the limitation imposed on them by the specific circumstances. Thus the question, what do women want, can have no definite and final answers because the wants have no definite and final limits. Seven 17. There are undoubtedly more depressed people in the so-called developed industrialized world than in the underdeveloped one. Perhaps one of the reasons for this is that in the developed world, the ever-expanding service industry relieves its inhabitants from many mundane tasks and chores required to maintain daily life, leaving them with a lot of free, unoccupied time on their hands to wait for the much more significant events and experiences than cooking, washing the dishes come their way. Yet in the lives of the ordinary people, the great events and exciting experiences are very rare occurrences indeed. Thus the time saved by using others' labor is spent in the idle anticipation. Hence the boredom and frustration when nothing exciting is happening, and the depression as the inevitable results of it. At the same time, the overwhelming majority of people in the third world are so much preoccupied with the basic difficulties of day-to-day survival that they have neither leisure nor energy left to indulge into luxury of being depressed. 7:18. A lot of contemporary poetry presents the reader with the same dilemma which confronted the observers of the Emperor's New Dress. All their senses, especially the common one, tell them that there is nothing out there, and yet the sophistication of form, the richness of vocabulary, the overall high literacy displayed in such poetry strongly suggests, nay, demands from the reader to acknowledge that there must be more, much more to it that meets the eyes. For those who are unwilling or unable to submit blindly to such demand, there is no other alternative but to ask the poet personally, when such opportunity presents itself, about the meaning of his/her writings. Unfortunately, the answer is usually given, instead of the expected clarification, create in the minds of listeners even more confusion and doubts, both about poetry and their own ability to understand it. 7:19. A young religion or a young ideology can be compared to a just-built ship. Its body is firm and sleek and freshly painted. The rigs are sound and well-fitted. It is strong enough to withstand the storm of resistance. It is ready and eager for a speedy voyage into the irresistibly alluring and promising future. And its captain, the founder of a young religion or ideology, is the best possible captain to navigate it through the uncharted waters of adversity and struggle. For he is the one who has designed a new ship and knows better than anyone else in the ship's company where it is going. But as a year passes by, a captain and a crew are being replaced again and again, and each time those who succeed are less certain of purpose and destination of their journey than the preceding ones. In the hull of the ship, the body of religion and ideology is being continuously covered more and more with barnacles of numerous rules and regulations, which increasingly impede the ship's progress. Eventually, for this ship to remain seaworthy, those barnacles has to be stripped to restore the body to its original purity and integrity, so that the ship may regain its former beauty and speed. Christianity has done it to Judaism and Reformation to Catholicism. Needless to say, the work of stripping the barnacles is never done. 720. One of the essential marks of a great intellect is the most religious faith it has in its ability to comprehend the numerous complexity of the world. Perhaps it's only a delusion. Nevertheless, such a delusion in a great intellect is so powerful that it gives one possessed by it the supreme confidence, the supreme self-confidence to fearlessly face any opinion or ideas, no matter how contrary they may be to his own, which makes such a person unusually broad-minded and tolerant, the traits that unmistakably distinguish a truly great intellectual from the rest. (721) Those who forget the past are bound to repeat it. Yet those who remember the past too well are usually so much preoccupied with it that they are incapable of doing the full justice to the present. 722. The work of art, no matter how great it is, never presents the entire process, but only the outcome of a lengthy progression of the interconnected thoughts and feelings, usually at the point when they can no longer be contained and demand either to be intentionally released or, if not, would more or less spontaneously burst out anyway. 723. Philosophy is the most egalitarian of all arts. For the sine qua non of philosophy, its fundamental yet never fully acknowledged premise is that all men feel, think, and act essentially in the same way. For how else a philosopher can extend the observation of one himself or of the very few particular subjects to cover universally the rest of mankind? 724. The people who enjoy being with the most are those who bring out the best in us, and the least who bring out the worst. For the first makes us feel good, and the second bad about ourselves. Of course, the best and the worst in this case are defined by us in a very subjective manner indeed. 725. They say that the tiger, as a rule, would not, unless challenged, attack the man. But if accidentally it tastes human flesh, usually a victim of natural man-made disaster, this inborn taboo is broken, and from then on such a tiger becomes a man-eater and begins to treat a man just as another kind of prey. The similar phenomenon of the drastically altered patterns of attitudes and behavior can be observed in the marital relationships. Spouses who weren't sexually active, except with each other before marriage, would habitually remain faithful as long as the marriage lasts. But if, for whatever reason, an adultery is committed, a spouse who did it, and with a relative impunity, that is, the marriage remained intact, will repeat it as often as circumstances would permit. Here again, once the taboo is broken, it cannot be restored, for apparently the breaking of the taboos is a reversible process.